What's up? JW Primetime
What's
over
going
here.
on, Mr. Parker? How you doing?
Oh, well, I've got my psychedelic shirt on. Looks like it came straight from a DMT trip.
Oh, dude, and you know what? I'm wearing Pink Floyd not on purpose. I'm afraid to admit it. This is the same shirt I was wearing last night. I did the. I'm like, it's good. It's
You're good,
good.
man. The sniff test is scientifically accurate. That's good. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, Pink Floyd, man. I tell you, ever since I started experimenting down the rabbit hole, Pink Floyd has been a must, like a go-to. Like I know that's so cliche, like as soon as somebody does some psychedelics, all of a sudden they're like, "Yo, Pink Floyd, far out, man." But I don't know. There's just something about that music that's so tuned in to
Yeah.
the experience.
No, that's a good point because it's like when I was telling you like that's usually like my background music or setting music for something psychedelic. You almost don't want to tell somebody that because it is so cliche. It's like, oh, big effing surprise.
Yeah.
And but like I was telling you with like the song "Comfortably Numb." I mean, there's a transition with the song that just kind of carries me like a vehicle that helps me get
Yeah.
into that state of mind. And then, I mean, there's other songs too and deeper cuts and stuff. But I find that I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, the music is it's such precision. It's so perfectly mixed and then the lyrics also are kind of
The
open to
lyrics.
interpretation.
There's also that mood to it. There's always this otherworldly sound effects and everything going on,
Right.
and you would probably like Coheed and Cambria because they're kind of like my generation's Pink Floyd. Like they got a lot of spacey, weird, trippy stuff going on in their
Really?
music too. Yeah, but
I'm still kind of going through a Hanson stage right now, but I'll probably
did you bop this morning?
drop some acid and bop away. Put it on repeat for 14 hours.
You know what? You're joking, but on LSD that probably would be a good time. I don't know.
Oh my god, I think they're girls.
But yeah, so we've it's such a weird thing talking about these substances because it's still so demonized in society right now. It's still illegal to do these substances, which really, like I know that there's a lot of pressure being put on the government right now to decriminalize all these things or whatever. Obviously, there are some substances that are worse than others, uh, like DMT, was it shrooms, like psilocybin. Who decided that these things that are growing out of the earth that literally have the power to speak to you? It's like the planet is actually talking to you personally, one on one, and
Mhm.
revealing all this crazy cosmic knowledge. Who decided that's a bad thing? That's illegal. We can't allow that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
man. George Bush Sr., Nixon, and all that. You can't have anybody questioning Vietnam, so we need to blanket clear across everything. I don't know though.
That's a good
What's so
point.
funny is you see some of those videos from like Woodstock and stuff. Well, there'll be like the guy that's like, it's always that same guy in every fucking documentary about psychedelics, and you're like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't make that illegal. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's true that all of these substances have an inherent risk involved. I mean, and plus, like a lot of people, it's the same with any other thing. A lot of people just aren't very responsible with it, Like there's obviously some settings that you don't want to be tripping balls in, like driving down the freeway 80 miles an hour. You don't necessarily want to be doing a heroic dose of psilocybin or
Right,
acid.
exactly, exactly. Well, out of the repertoire of drugs that I have consumed in my life, one of the very last ones for me to start experimenting with, the very last one out of all of them was mushrooms.
Hmm.
Like I still had, dude, I would go to parties, like these rave parties and everything. Everybody's doing, blow and X, GHB, ketamine, and we'd have people that would say, "Hey, we're doing some mushrooms. You want to do mushrooms?" And I was like, "Oh no, no, no!" That was burned into my brain from like when I was a young kid. Like, of course, you're always told, toadstools are poisonous. So you associate shrooms with poison.
Yeah.
And then I remember my mother, I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. She was having a conversation with my father, and they were talking about my dad and mom's friend that was disfellowshipped from the church. And I heard my mom say, "Well, you know what it is? I blame it on the mushrooms. You know, he had done those mushrooms and he hasn't been the
Mm,
same since." You know, so in my head, I'm thinking, "Oh my God, he took these mushrooms and of course he wasn't the same since he was all of a sudden, oh shit, maybe I'm in a cult."
yeah. Oh, it has a way of opening your eyes to so many things. I know that from my own mushroom experience, at the peak of it, my thoughts became so layered and complicated. Like, I mean, I've always been a very analytical person, but
Mhm.
on those things, it was like a superpower. It was, I don't know, I felt like Charles Xavier, like just fucking. I mean, my brain was like this thing, that this super powerful computer, and I was just processing everything, and it was pretty overwhelming actually.
Yeah.
But when you come back from these states, and then you see like sort of the superficial bullshit that people are doing, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not gonna be a part of any of that nonsense.
Yeah, you know, I mean, especially when it comes to the bill of goods that we've been sold for, you know, materially possessions and the 9 to 5 lifestyle and acquiring things and everything. You, I mean, you look at people that have lived their entire lives that can't snap out of that, can't separate, can't get out of that mindset, that are into consumption all the way up to the day they die, man. But dude, if they just had one psychedelic experience when they could knock them to their senses, be like, wait a second, you know what? Uh, there's more to life than just this bullshit that I've been programmed.
And
Um,
it's kind of one of those things though, that it seems as though the people that would benefit the most from it, you also are terrified that if they do it, they're just gonna break and like not even be functional afterwards, you know? Because some
yeah,
people,
you
like, their
know,
ego is all they have, you
right,
know?
right. I've come to think of it, 90% of the people in my family should not do psychedelics. They need to keep, you know, doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's something I
Um,
kind of wanted to touch on, especially with like say DMT, is that like I definitely don't recommend DMT to anybody who's really killing it in life, who's really like ambitiously going towards something, and working for the super worldly goal, I've said it to other people in the past. If you got 999 pages of a book written out of 1,000, and you're really pumped about publishing that bitch, don't do DMT, because you might not write that last page. You might.
that's fascinating, man. I never even really thought of it that way. But yeah, I mean, look, if we if somebody had given Donald Trump DMT when he was 20, we wouldn't have this great president. I mean,
That's
so
so true.
please, people think before you do drugs.
Yeah. No, that's a damn good point. Yeah, there would be no Donald Trump if he did DMT at say 19 years old. There's no way. Like, to
Yeah,
be a business tycoon, to be a cutthroat businessman, and do
yeah,
psychedelics, those two just do not mix. I
no.
I would argue anyway. I mean, maybe there's some weird ass motherfucker out there who can do both, but to me it just
I
seems
don't,
like.
I don't know, man, because you know, I think back to like, you know, when I had my business before, and especially like back through my 20s, and the mindset that I had pre psychedelics, and all I cared about was making money, growing the business, doing. I mean, it was and things. I wanted things, things, things,
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and the more I kind of started, you know, going down my own personal rabbit hole, the more I started seeing the futility of everything that I was doing. You know, I mean, just my ability to have a day, you know, like I tell you now, typically if I have a day off, I spend it just playing my Xbox, you know, and I'm not sitting there thinking, wow, you know, I should be making money today. I should be doing something to be acquiring yet the next rung up the ladder or whatever. I'm like able to be like, no, you know what? This is nice. This is life. This is
yeah.
what I want to do. And I don't have to prove anything to anybody anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's well said, and I think that has a lot to do with the ego. Like, a lot of these substances, you experience what's called the ego death, and where you literally just are completely obliterated. Like, who you are, everything that makes you you, just disappears for a few moments, and when you come back from that, you kind of have this new, interesting perspective on life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's.
You know, the ego death too. I mean, I can think of like at least two specific like ego deaths on psychedelics that, quite honestly, I was never the same after. Especially the second time doing DMT, the ego death that I had there, man, just I mean, it just shook me to my core. I mean, I had to accept, I mean, it was so deep. I had to accept the fact I didn't remember smoking DMT. I didn't remember taking it. I didn't remember that I was at my house. I didn't remember my body. Towards the end of the trip, I found myself in that black void with the atypical white light looking down at me. And, but my brain was conscious enough to know that I still existed on some form, but I was trying to figure out, I'm like, am I dead? Am I did I do everything that I needed to in my life? Is my daughter and my girlfriend going to be okay? You know, and so I'm sitting there and then I'm waiting to fucking move on to whatever the next plane is. Then all of a sudden I start, you know, my environment starts coming back to me. I start realizing, wait a minute, there's the body or whatever. And it shook me to my core, man. I broke down crying because it was just so humbling. And I also felt like, you know what? This also gives me a chance to maybe make a couple things right, you know, things that,
Yeah.
you know, had I died at that moment, you know, what would I have regretted? And I remember my thought process for the next few weeks after that was one of just thinking, okay, you know, if that was to be my death, what would I have wanted differently? And you know,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
it's
And that's kind of my experience too. And it seems that people tend to have that mega scary or alarming ego death within the first couple times they try DMT, because that first time I know that I did it with you, it was definite. Like, had you not been there and had it not been like a really fun environment full of friends afterwards, I probably would have broke down and cried too, because it's definitely a life-changing experience. And the second time too, I had a bit of an ego death, but that one wasn't quite as black and nothing. There was a lot of visuals, a lot of geometric shapes, and just like these crystals, and just the most beautiful
yeah,
images imaginable, which kind of made it a little bit less dark and scary as the first
yeah.
one. But
It's kind of weird, you know, the visuals, the visions. It's kind of the bonus for the scary aspect. It's like, yeah, you know, there's some stuff that you might have to face that's absolutely terrifying. But to counter that, we're going to show you some of the most beautiful things you'll ever see.
yeah,
Those two combined together, man, it makes for such an overwhelming experience that is literally impossible to put into words.
yeah,
But even like nowadays, I still have such respect for the substance that um, you know, I did it by myself a couple times in the last few months, and now I refuse to do it unless like Jenna's home. I mean, she won't be in the room when I'm doing it, just because I don't know how deep I'm gonna go, and I don't know how I'm gonna feel emotionally when I first am emerging out of it. So like, I need that when I'm coming out of it, that like, okay, there's Jen, there's my wife, you know, okay, everything's okay. Um, but yeah, it's almost like the more I've done it, the more I have a reverence and respect for it, and yeah, I know I don't think I could go camping or be out in the woods and do it.
yeah. That was an interesting time too. Yeah, I don't know how much I want to go into that experience, because I'll probably freak everyone viewing this out, especially
Right,
giving our unique religious background.
right.
There are some religious themes to this stuff that is pretty like shocking. And you know, it's difficult to interpret what's really happening. Quite honestly, I think that's sort of the origin of a lot of these religions and a lot of these religious ideas. Is somebody back in Bible times tripped balls, felt like they were
Hmm.
possessed by something, saw God, saw burning bushes, saw eyes everywhere, wrote Revelation, and here we are. You
Well,
know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, look at the conversation when I did it last week, and I called you up, and the only way that I could explain it, I had to put it into familiar religious terms, where I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this spirit is anointing me with oil, and I could feel it coming down, and it's basically those are the only words I could come up with for it. And I'm thinking back the next day, I'm like, motherfucker, How's that so ingrained in my head?
And so like, yeah,
And then
you
there's the
gotta
burning bush and
right. You gotta be careful. Like, you don't want to let that confirm like some of these really fucked up religious ideas. You gotta kind of, I mean, I try to be a skeptic as much as possible when doing these things, and you gotta let reason take control. Like, it's less likely that these religious ideas are right. It's more likely that somebody back before these ideas were even written down had this experience, and then this is their way of interpreting it.
right, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I mean there's stuff that I've seen on the substance that if I hadn't already had more positive experiences with, that could be like, oh well, demons
Demons.
took over my body. And you know what? Anything at this point is possible. All I can say is that if they did, it was temporary, and I still went back to being a productive member of society, cutting hair the next day. You know,
I'm gonna
I'm not
see.
giving like more demonic haircuts now.
More than, yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I mean, I will actually I will actually say this though. These things do have a tendency to bring out whatever weirdness you already have inside you and like make it
Yeah,
worse.
yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
cuz like for me, you know, like I'm aware that some of my behavior after doing these things is odd, and I'm aware of like how I'm probably being perceived, you know, but I'm so enjoying the ride and the discovery, and
Oh
I'm,
yeah,
you know what I mean, that like, you know, if I wear like something weird, it doesn't really bother me. Like, and I also have way less of a hiccup as far as how I'm being viewed by others. Like, since doing psychedelics, I really don't give a shit how people view me anymore.
right.
Um,
Right. Well, you know, what's funny is you wear shirts like that. It's kind of like a secret code,
it
like our own
is.
little. It's our own Illuminati language. Oh, dude, he's
Uh,
woke.
so I got this friend, right, that I work with, and I couldn't we had a few conversations, whatever, but I couldn't figure out what was so different about her. And I asked her, I said, "Are you from here, Central New York?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm from here." I'm like, "Are you sure? Like, you can't be. There's something different about you, you know?" And we were like, "Oh, well, whatever." Well, come to find out later, like, she walks in like a week later wearing this jacket. It's like psychedelic as hell, man. It's like got rips in it that are multicolored, like sort of tie-dye and like all kinds of bullshit like that, you know. And so I was like, "Oh, you do psychedelics, don't you?" She's like, "Yeah." Is it that obvious? I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
come to find out later after that that she's also an ex-Jehovah's Witness.
What are
So
the odds of that,
yeah,
man?
but man, I pegged it. Like, I pegged that there was something very different with this chick. This is not a typical Central New Yorker, you know. There's something going on there. But I want
Yeah.
to see if I can share the screen, because we were
Oh
talking
God, I
about.
remember that picture.
Don't you? There's so many gems in
Oh my
that one.
God.
Come on, let me see. Well. Well, I'll just kind of zoom it in. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to be editing this video later so I can put it right up there for everybody. There's eyes. There's
Dude,
eyes inside the wings of this shit. There are eyes everywhere. And let me tell you something. Anybody who's done a massive dose of any psychedelic has seen some eyes in some weird
oh yeah,
places.
oh
Like,
yeah.
I don't know what it is about the eye, but it seems very significant to the cosmos or to our
Yeah.
own brains or something.
There also seemed to be something highly gay about that picture too. I can picture the Copacabana being played in the background as these guys are Copa.
Yeah, they're kind of lined up in a train there.
Hey man, your beard's looking good, bro. Thanks, man. You too.
I don't want to know what's in that bowl right now.
Don't you
Simbukaki.
love how when it comes to the Bible too, like once you get to the book of Revelation, we're just supposed to on faith assume that John is not a drug user. That this is all just normal shit, you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but if he was really just inspired by God and did no psychedelics whatsoever, then that proves to me that psychedelics is pretty much God. Like,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
similarities between the Book of Revelation and the shit you see while under a psychedelic trip is Well, it's
Well, I mean, like
uncanny,
half
man.
this stuff that he's written just looks like a transcription of one of our phone calls.
That's so true. And then there's also the man. It's actually gaining a lot of steam on social network and just in like the general consensus is starting to wake up to the idea that um, we pretty much evolved a higher level of consciousness by taking psychedelics, whether it be mushrooms or the iboga plant in
Oh,
Africa.
the stoned
Um,
ape theory, man.
yeah,
McKenna's stoned ape theory, and it makes sense, trying to come up with the reason for the doubling of the human brain 2 million years ago.
yeah.
Um,
Even in the book
For
of
Rogan talk
Genesis.
about it a lot too, and it's just you know what seems weird though is it seems weird too that the so much of this stuff is becoming available at a time when it seems like the planet is screaming for people to become a little more
Yes.
conscious of what they're doing. It's almost like this one last Hail Mary of the planet saying, okay, guys, listen, it's all going to hell. We need to wake up right now. And unfortunately, it's a small percentage that's going to be getting it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Terrence McKenna, oh, what a genius that guy was. He talks about all of his. This man has gone deeper down the rabbit hole than anyone probably ever could. Like he explored the hell out of psychedelics, and he's so incredibly intelligent that I highly recommend anybody who enjoys this video like look his videos and lectures up. But he talks about how it seems he calls everything in existence or God, he calls it not chaos but novelty. And he talks about how we seem to be getting more complex, not just us, but the universe seems to be expanding and getting more complex. Every organism on this planet seems to be becoming more complex, and it seems to be building towards something. And like what you just said about the planet, in this time, all this coming out right now, it's definitely leading to something, man. Like there's it's almost as if I think at some point we were meant to start being aware of something a little bit greater on a much deeper level than we ever have before, and I think we're getting
Yeah.
there, you know?
There's something weird too, and not to come off as like egotistical or something, but and I know everybody thinks that they're so god dang special, but you know, um, having done like psychedelics, it was almost like a validation of thoughts that I had as a young child. Like it was almost like the validation of, okay, you're not crazy. This is a miraculous experience that's well above just this what you were taught to believe about life and the body and the physical form. It's like, okay, you know what, you've lived enough of your life, enough of your existence to, be trapped in that one line of thinking. Now we're going to give you some validation, some verification that you were right all along.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's funny because I obviously left the Jehovah's Witness organization. I was raised in a cult or whatever, you were as well, but after that I started doing so much study into like other religions and science and philosophy and everything else, and the conclusion that I came to before doing psychedelics, mind you, was that reincarnation was probably a thing. Like if any of these
Mm,
complex sort of spiritual ideas that can't be proven are correct, that was the one that kind of reached out to me the most. And then like after doing psychedelics, it was like it was almost proven to me. I mean, obviously I'm still trying to be a skeptic and be like, well, maybe our brains are just pulling this elaborate prank on me, maybe, who knows,
right, right.
but at the same time, it's like when you're in this. I remember the second time that I had a full breakthrough, I just had this overwhelming sense of familiarity, like I had been in that realm.
Absolutely,
You've had that before too, and most
absolutely.
people do. They've just got the sense that they've been in this realm outside of our body a million times before, and we keep coming back for some reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. The very first time that I did DMT, I'm looking at something, I'm seeing something that it just doesn't seem like it should absolutely be possible, but I knew exactly what I was looking at. It was a familiarity. It was like, not to use the overplayed thing that people do with this experience, but it was like being home,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and you know, when you're talking about the other religions too, it's so funny that like entities, things that I've seen have taken on, if they've taken on a form that I've been able to identify and recall later after the trip, they've been more akin to like Buddhist or Hindu type gods than anything else. You know, I definitely didn't see Watchtower Jesus on DMT. You know,
Some people claim that they do, but I that's pretty rare to me. That's pretty shocking. But me
yeah,
personally, yeah, I actually saw the head of Buddha. Like at first, I thought it was like some kind of South American statue, just because DMT comes from the ayahuasca vine and the trees from South America. Because I didn't know what the depiction of Buddha, other than the fat one, looked like. I mean, I
right.
still don't understand why they depict him as a fat guy all the time, but
It's
there,
Chris Hansen.
yeah, yeah, we had that conversation earlier. He's put on some weight, but
uh,
but yeah, but then like I was looking up pictures of statues and I found one that looked just like him and I shared it with you guys and you were like, you know that's Buddha, right? And I was like, is that what the thin Buddha looks like? Because that's pretty crazy. I saw
yeah,
Buddha.
yeah. Yeah, well, and that's one of the crazy things too is the similarities the among people in the trips and what they see. You
Hmm.
know, me telling you about this Joker Jester thing. I mean, there's so little that I can take back from these trips, but these this Joker slash Jester that will get right up in my face and kind of like somewhat aggressive, kind of just like trying to spook me and stuff. But I mean, it will be clear as day when I see this thing, and then I go online and find F- billions of people have seen this same type of entity, man. You know,
Yeah,
whether this again, you know, if it's an actual entity or if it's, you know, our human brains trying to make sense and
trying to
form
make
a
sense of it.
pattern, you
Yeah,
know, yeah. But you know, I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen though is, you know, all I could godlike, you know,
yeah,
whatever it is, you know, and also like I've told you before too, like on some of the deeper trips where as I'm going out, I'll lose control over my body, like my hands, and I'll start doing some
yeah,
type of strange dance that's going in unison with whatever this thing is that I'm seeing. And I have zero control over my hand. I know what's going on. I can't see the world anymore. I can feel my hands doing this type of thing. But man, I'm like, thank God nobody's videotaped that. I would look like
yeah.
a doofus.
I've had my entire body kind of be hijacked before, but it's not scary to me. Like it for whatever reason you when that happens to you, at least for me, I definitely felt like I was not the one pulling the strings. Like something else had my motor controls and was moving me around and stuff. But I but I was enjoying the ride, and I really I feel confident that if it put me in a bad situation, that I would be able to take control back. Hopefully. um,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I know exactly what you're
Well, I
talking
still
about.
maintain the scariest part of a DMT trip, always, at least for me, is the minute before I actually do it. While it's happening, I don't have the fright. But man, it's leading up to it, right before I take it. I'm like, because I know I'm about ready to go through something pretty
Yeah,
hardcore.
yeah,
Stomach starts to hurt. I start to get nervous. I'm trying to get in the mindset, do breathing exercise, or whatever. Once the substance is actually starting to hit me, which takes really fast, you know, 30 seconds, you're boom out the door. By then, I have like this sense of calm and euphoria now that
yeah,
I'm starting to see this stuff. And the more you surrender, the more it's less frightening it is.
yeah. And honestly, like that's the key to all of these substances. If you go into it and like 2 seconds into it, you're like, no, I want to go back to normal. This is bad. Is this gonna last forever? And once you start like beating yourself up and trying to take control back, you're
Yeah,
gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a really bad time. Like
absolutely.
you
And
have
this
to
is
go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say it's definitely something that I don't think should be introduced to anybody that by not by somebody that hasn't done it. Like I would not want to be doing this for my first time, not having someone that's
Alone.
gone and done it before. Like to me,
Yeah.
that would just that could be terrifying. And then you know trying to explain to somebody that has no idea what you're talking about that hasn't been there, man.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be good.
Yeah, I absolutely like that seems like the worst thing imaginable. And everyone Like I've shared it with one person, and they were pretty damn glad that I was there because I mean, it rocks your world, especially the DMT. You know, I can't speak for a whole lot of the other ones. You know, psilocybin mushrooms is pretty intense. Like that's
Hmm.
another thing too. You want to be around someone, especially with the longer lasting ones like mushrooms. You want to be around someone that you 100% trust and you know like has a lot of love for you,
Yeah.
because if you're around somebody who's going to be kind of like busting your balls and kind of like making you doubt yourself or something like that, it's going to really mess you up. You're going to just be in a really like,
Mushrooms can be a real tricky psychedelic, man, because you're most of what you're seeing, most of the visions are coming out of your physical environment. You're seeing, alterations of this wall or the floor or whatever. So there's enough. You're grounded enough to know, one, you're on mushrooms. Two, you're in your house. Three, you're around, the people you're around. But it's also being extremely altered. Like the DMT, forget it. You're not thinking about your house, your environment, whatever that. So the mushrooms can kind of be a little bit of uh, a scary experience, but
and
god dang,
DMT is
mushrooms
over
can.
in like 10 to 20 minutes tops.
Yeah,
But
yeah. The mushrooms, man. But I'll tell you what, mushrooms, man, they can be entertaining as hell. I mean, once you've gotten over like the initial paranoia that can set in, and then like I said, the last time I did it, man, I just sat on my front on a lawn chair. My front of my house faces the back of my elementary school. I watched for like an hour as the whole school turned into this carnival with like clowns and carousels, and it was going on and on and
do
on.
do do
Yeah,
looking out my
yeah,
back
that was
door.
it. Dun, 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 and it should have been. It was so vivid and so realistic. It should have been scary, but I was also, I'm looking at this school that was the source of so many childhood memories and innocence and Transformers and shit, that it was giving me a positive feeling. So everything I was seeing was
Yeah.
completely positive. But I've taken mushrooms and I've been around some shady people. And let me tell you, I couldn't get out of that situation fast enough.
Yeah, that's not a good situation to find yourself. And
Oh no.
also, like I don't think I'd want to be in an environment where, like for example, say you're like riding around with friends and you're not like in your own home, or at least like if you're camping, at least you've got your tent you can retreat to if you start feeling paranoid or something like that. But if you're just like walking around in public, and I don't know, that seems like it would be a pretty intense, scary
Oh, absolutely,
situation too.
dude. Yeah, my worst trips had been when I have been out of the house, when I haven't been. I don't know how many times people are like, oh, wouldn't it be great, man, if we go to Disney World and do mushrooms? Fuck no, fuck no. All it would take is one kid biting the ear off a Mickey Mouse fucking sandwich, and I'd be like, oh, that's it. It just takes one thing. Oh no,
That's
man, we
awesome.
go in the haunted mansion. How cliche would that be? Uh,
Oh
man,
buddy, I'm gonna probably start wrapping this up. I actually have to be at work at 2, but man, what
I
a
started,
great
that game,
conversation though.
The Last of Us. You heard of that game? Yeah.
Yes.
I started it up again. I beat it, I don't know, like
I
six
still
months
haven't
ago.
played
I
it, but
felt like,
everyone keeps telling me about it. I'm like, I want to really bad.
dude, it is crazy. Well, I'm waiting for the PlayStation 4. They're coming out with The Last of Us Part 2. I still haven't gotten a PlayStation 4. I'm an Xbox guy, but that's going to be, those exclusive properties, man. They got you by the balls because it ain't going to come out on anything else. So I'll
Yeah.
surrender to PlayStation for that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, with me, that's like I'm really wanting to play a few games like the new Spider-Man that's coming out for PlayStation looks
I
pretty
heard,
damn
man.
good. And
I
they've been
heard.
hyping it up for like 2 years. It doesn't even come out till September.
Right,
So like
right.
with all this hype, it had better be pretty good, but I don't have a PS4 or anything. And then there's also the ever elusive Final Fantasy VII remake, which may or may not
Oh,
ever
what
come
is
out.
going on with it,
Dude, they're
man?
talking about like another 5 years from now or
Come
something.
on,
I
dude.
don't
There's no
know.
excuse for it. If it's
No.
gonna be, I know it's a completely different subject, but if it's gonna be released episodically, and they've got enough video up there, that shit should be done. And I know Square, they've got the time. They're making Life is Strange and all these other
Kingdom Hearts
games.
3 and
Yeah, and let's face it, I'm sure Square is like it's probably run like one of those Apple factories where they keep people penned in so they can't commit suicide till their job quota is filled.
They're sweatshopping.
You make cloud now.
Break, you had break last week, but
Tifa chit bigger
bigger.
Tifa
you 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 make Yuffie look more adolescent. More adolescent.
Barrett, too black, too black.
Yeah. Make him wave arms around. He's very angry.
What a great time, man.
Dude, homie, I knew this would be awesome. We got to do this again, like real soon.
Absolutely,
We didn't
brother.
even scratch the surface of the subject.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
Like, there's so
We'll
much.
talk more, brother.
Thanks, buddy, man. JW Primetime. Check out his your YouTube is still up, right? JW
JW Prime
Primetime.
Time. Yeah, it's been almost 2 years since I made a video. Almost 2 years.
Yeah, but those are still gold. I still go back and watch those, especially like the video game one or the JW Haunted Mansion and
Well,
oh
it's
man.
funny. I'll see somebody will comment on a video, and I'm like, "What?" And I'll click on the video. Oh, I'm like, "Oh, I've totally forgot about that." So, yeah, I'm just leaving it up as a testament to a temporary moment of insanity in my life.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Oh man, I can't wait to look back on all the ridiculousness I've done on my channel 10 years from now. I'm just kind of like
Yeah.
but
I
thanks,
know,
man.
80 years old, man. I'm gonna have my little Dick Blabon puppet. I'm gonna be like, oh, remember the times.
Oh, I love that I got on camera me taking Dick Blab on and fucking with Eric. Oh man, that was so much
God.
fun.
It's a little controversial.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was a controversial moment too, which, there's no shortage of those with us. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we sort of say whatever the hell we want and worry about it later.
Yeah.
Yo, Tony, thanks a lot,
Hey,
amigo.
thanks, Parker, man.
Have a
Love you,
good one,
amigo.
bro. Love you too,
Take
dude.
care.